cook it. So there's a whole discussion. Is it Kimach Ben Dusai? It's cook the third, cook the fourth. What do you do Tikkun Olam? Where are the halachic parameters of Tikkun Olam? Now it's interesting. If you look in the Shulchan Aruch does not really talk about Tikkun Olam. Even though we all talk about how this is such an important part of Judaism, right? To fix the world. Well, you've been in yeshiva long enough. You know that the first time we bring something up, what do we have to do? Define our terms. So what is the Olam? What is Letakei? We can go that way. We're not. But how come there's no halachic parameter for fixing the world? How do you fix the world? What is fixing the world? Maybe sometimes I think I'm fixing the world and I'm not fixing the world. So, Rabbi Yonatan Sachs, right, the former chief rabbi of England, wrote a magnificent article or gave a magnificent speech, I'm not sure on this topic, which is the basis for what I'm going to share with you. Now, if anyone wants this, I can either copy it for you or email it to you, whatever. Or you can look it up on your own on the web. And he suggests an interesting thing. He says that there are really two types of Torahs. And we're going to get into this when we talk about Agadata later with Yiddish and Al-Khan Agadah. He suggests that there are two types of Torahs. One he calls Torah Kohanim. Torah Kohanim is the what, where, when, how. He calls it Torah Kohanim because that was the Kohen's province. The Kohen served in the Beit HaMikdash. That was a place of enormous detail. And the job of the Kohen was to give over that Torah from generation to generation. It is interesting, by the way, that we still have Kohanim today. And even though you might have, doubt as to whether a person's a Kohen, if we knew for sure that a person was a Kohen, he could fulfill all the mitzvot of a Kohen that he's capable of fulfilling. For example, there's something called a Kohen Miyuchas. Kohen Miyuchas is a Kohen who has an unbroken tradition and some evidence for that tradition. For example, the Shach, who's one of the commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch, his name was Rav Shabtai HaKohen Rappaport. And he had an unbroken yichus. He claimed all the way back to the Kahuna in the time of the Beit HaMikdash. And therefore the Vilna Gaon, this is an urban legend, I've never seen this in writing, but I've heard this. The Vilna Gaon, whenever he would meet a Kohen, he would do Pidyon Haben on his eldest son again, until he met a direct descendant of the Shach. Okay? And then he stopped. So a Kohen is a Kohen. Technically, halachically, you could build a mizbeach, you could build an altar in Har HaBayit. I'm not suggesting we do that, especially in our film. There was a big, big debate and discussion in the 1700s, 1800s. Rabbi Akiva Eiger, the Chassam Sofer, the Ksav Sofer, they wanted to buy a portion of Har HaBayit. They were trying to get Rothschild to fund it. If you could get a portion, if the government would agree, if we could do it, peace, politics, putting that all aside, halachically, you could build a mizbeach. Building the basically is a little more complicated. Building a mizbeach, if you built a mizbeach in Har HaBayit, an altar, you could offer up carbon Pesach. So there was a movement to try to do that. Right? Eventually, the Jewish people weren't ready for it. If you offered up Korban Pesach, you can't offer up Korban Pesach without a Kohen. Nobody wrote in all of those tshuvot how do you find a Kohen. Right? And since Tuma Tchuya B'tzibur, since even though a Kohen is technically impure because there's no red heifer to purify him from Tumat Meit, from contact with death, that would be set aside for the needs of the community. Therefore, a Kohen is a Kohen. But there's a second type of Torah. And then he calls Torah Nevi'im. We don't have Nevi'im. Right? Nevuah stopped. What's the Torah of the Nevi'im? The Torah of the Nevi'im was a Torah that was specific to particular generations. It was how to deal with the issues of the day. It was understanding where the world was and where the world needed to go and how we as a people could influence that world. And we've lost that over 2,000 years of exile. How do we get that back? What does it mean, and do we have a responsibility to the world? So I want to suggest an interesting thing. If you look, at the beginning of Judaism, which is of course the beginning of the Torah, the story of Africa, it's interesting that there are two themes that permeate Sefer Bereshit. Okay? Two themes, two promises, two things that Hashem says, this is what you're going to get if you do this. This is what I'm going to give you. This is how we're going to make this world. What's one of those themes? Anyone take a guess?
A lot of children.
Children, good, very good, right? Every time you find a brit, a covenant, I'm going to give this over to your children. Avram arrives, he's barren, his wife is barren, they have no children. Hashem says, you will have children. I will grant you progeny. Yitzchak is told he will have progeny. Yaakov is told he will have progeny. All the promises, take us out, show us the stars, right? Your children will be like the stars, whatever that means. So that's one of the promises. One of the promises is you will have children. What's the second promise? What's the second promise? It's interesting that this promise has been lost for only just rediscovered? You want to take a guess?
Land of Israel.
The land of Israel. Ki l'zaracha eten et ha'aretz hazot. I'm going to give you this land. Those are two promises I find in Sefer Bereshit. Now it's interesting. If you would have told a Jew in 1850 that we're going to fulfill this promise and it's coming, he would either look at you as a mystic or as a madman. Right? There's a vignette that suggests that Theodore Herzl, he saw something. It's fascinating that Hashem chose Theodore Herzl as the vehicle for turning the world around. Certainly for transforming, realizing a dream in Jewish history. But Theodore Herzl, because of his connections as a journalist, went all over the world, met with the major rulers of the day, and he had a meeting with the Emperor Franz Joseph. And in this meeting with the Emperor, according to legend, right, he was asking for the Austro-Hungarian Empire's support for the idea of a Jewish homeland in the land of Israel, right, Palestine, whatever you want to call it then. And supposedly the Emperor said to him, he laughed. He said, you have to understand that in order for your dream to be realized, 3 empires will have to disappear. The Ottoman Empire will have to disappear, right? The Austro-Hungarian, Prussian, German axis will have to disappear, and the British Empire, right? They said of the British Empire, the sun never sets on the British Empire, because they have so much of the territory of the world that there's always somewhere that the sun is shining. All those empires have to be disappeared in order for you to have this country. And that's what he was told in 1898. And 50 years later, you know your history, all 3 of those empires were done. And the Jewish people came home. Right? After 2,000 years of dreaming, we're going to talk about this more before Yom Ha'atzmaut, Yom Yerushalayim, Yom HaZikaron, but after 2,000 years of dreaming, what's happened here in this country, that we take this for granted. You get on a plane, you pay $1,000, and you just come. It's not a big deal. We're sitting in a Beit Midrash in the old city of Yerushalayim. Israeli army soldiers come up all the time on our rooftops. And we don't think twice about it. We're speaking a vernacular which was an ancient unspoken language for 2,000 years that's been reborn as a modern spoken language. Unbelievable. And here we sit. So that promise, if not fulfilled, is well on its way. We've accomplished something. We've come home. We still have a lot of work to do. I don't think Geulah has arrived. Right? But if you ask me whether we're on track with that one, yeah, I would say we're on track. Then there's a second promise. Now the second promise is interesting. The second promise is children. And this is really interesting. Right? It can't be that when Hashem takes Avram outside and shows him the stars and tells him that your seed will be greater than stars, it can't be that that's a literal quote. So nature talks about this. Right? I mean, there are billions of stars. There are not, and doesn't seem to be that there ever will be, nor is there really any need for the Jewish people to be the majority. But what is interesting is that for the past 2,000 years, we've struggled in that. I mean, many of you have read about or seen the release of this report that's been appropriately named the Pew Report, right? That suggests that the overwhelming majority of Western Jewry, in this case American Jewry, is disappearing. Right? What is it? If you take the Orthodox component, again, whatever that label means, out of the equation, you have upwards of 70% of the American Jewish community that is intermarried. Right? More people think humor is a significant part of Jewish culture than religion or ritual. Right? They're disappearing. 9 out of 10 children from intermarried couples have no interest in defining themselves as Jewish, according to statistics. So they are disappearing. But there's an interesting statistic. During post-World War II, few individuals, Lubavitcher Rebbe, or Aaron Cutler, or Yaakov Kamenetsky, made their way to America. America was a Jewish desert. There was no one there, right? And one could make a case for saying that they transformed the Jewish community. If you needed to find a place to sit and learn Torah in 1945 in America, you were hard-pressed. There was Torah class in Brooklyn, a couple of small yeshivas in Chicago, that would pretty much it. Today it's unbelievable. In fact, there's a well-known statistic that Alan Dershowitz quotes in his book, The Vanishing Jew. Says, how many Jews will there be after 4 generations from a Jewish couple? It's a fascinating statistic. You can look this up on the internet. If you took, now I don't know how he did his research on what it's based, I haven't had time to look into it, so I don't know how he defines the word secular, I don't know how he defines the word orthodox. I think he's left out one of the labels in this equation, which is a label that doesn't really exist in America, which is what we call the Dati Leumi world, the national religious group here, which is very different from modern Orthodoxy in America in lots of different ways, and that's an interesting discussion. But according to his definition, if you took 200 secular Jews, right, 4 generations later, statistically, how many halakhic Jews will remain? Anybody know? Secular, not reformed, secular. Anybody know? 200 Jews. 200 Jews get married, right? Today, 57% of them are intermarrying, actually more, 70+%. If you go to Phoenix, it's 83%. If you go to Vancouver, it's 87%, right? 10 Jews will remain from 200 Jews after 4 generations, okay? If you took 200 Reformed Jews, 27 Jews would remain after 4 generations. If you took 200 conservative Jews, and again, I don't like these labels, but for the purpose of this statistic, 48 Jews would remain after 4 generations. If you took 200, what he calls modern Orthodox Jews, there would be an increase to 692. And if you took 200, what he calls Hasidic Yeshivish Jews, anyone want to take a guess? Right, 200 modern Orthodox Jews, according to Dershowitz, would result in 692 Jews after 4 generations. How many Jews would result from the Hasidic Yeshiva world? 5,175. Okay? Now I'm not saying that that's a pure statistic, and I'm not saying that there aren't difficulties with that, because somebody has to support them, but it seems, even from the modern Orthodox and everywhere in between, and I don't like these labels, that whatever you want to label it, Orthodox, National Religious Orthodox, Modern Confused Orthodox, Hasidic Yeshivish Orthodox in America, they've solved the problem of children. They figured out how to grow as people again after 2,000 years of exile. They figured it out. And if there are no programs, we solved the problem. Now we just got to get them over here. And Baruch Hashem. So we're good. So what's next? What do you do? So the truth is that there's a third promise. And this third promise has been missed. And it's been missed by the ones who most should identify with, and that's us. What I call the world that is committed to Jewish tradition. Whatever you want to call it. Whatever label you want to give it. And that is Tikkun Olam. And that is, by the way, back at the beginning of Breshit. And I'll just give you 2 examples because I don't have time for some questions. But if you look at the beginning of the journey of Abraham, so Hashem makes Abraham 3 promises. He tells him, right, I'm going to make you great, I'm going to make you famous. He tells him I'm going to give you progeny. Promises him eventually to live the land, which there is wrapped up with progeny. And he says, what's the purpose of all of this? Anybody know? What's the purpose of all this? You can always tell who the Balkara is, right? All the families of the earth will be blessed through you. In other words, the goal is not just us. And when I say us, I don't even mean us here. But the goal is not even the Jewish people. If we're not making an impact on the wider Jewish world, then we're not fulfilling our mission. Now there are a couple of points here that are worth mentioning. The first is, obviously, well, so where is this halachic literature? If this is a major part of the promise, and if we were going to do it that way, we could give the shiur that way, and if people are interested, I'm happy to follow up on this. There are makara for this, that's not, but why is this absent? Anyone make a suggestion? Why do you think Tikkun Olam, fixing the world, impacting the world, changing the world, yeah?
Because if you look at the context of the pasuk, it's not talking about going and planting trees. It's talking about something entirely different.
Oh, okay. Since you want to go to defining Tikkun Olam, we'll go there. Then we'll get back to this question. What is L'Tikkun Olam? B'malchut Shakai. What is Tikkun Olam? Tikkun Olam is not planting trees. Planting trees may be a vehicle for Tikkun Olam, but that's not what Tikkun Olam is. Tikkun Olam is not even going to Rwanda, right? I mean, there are very few mitzvot. I met a fellow who was in the doctor's mission to, in Japan. And he showed us a film. It was mind-boggling. You could take all the different things that we do here in Yeshiva, all the mitzvot, all the set, and you could take 1 week of this fellow's journey, and unbelievable, the mitzvot this person did. That's not Tikkun Olam. That's a vehicle for Tikkun Olam. We get this mixed up. So what is Tikkun Olam? Exactly right. L'Tikkun Olam b'malchut Shakai. V'nivrachu v'cha kol mishpachot. What's v'nivrachu v'cha? Through you will be blessed. Now we've had this discussion. What's a blessing? You ask the average person what a blessing is, they tell you, oh, I take a piece of bread, I make a blessing, I'm saying thank you. And we've had this discussion before. To bless does not mean thank you. Bracha is not thank you. There's a word for bracha, for thank you. It's todah. And we have tefillot, we have prayers that are all about thanks. Todah is a different word. So what's a bracha? No. What's a bracha? Levarech? To increase, right? Hashem berachet Avram bakol. Hashem increased Avram's wealth. To increase. What is it I'm increasing when I make a bracha? Pardon? What?
God's presence.
Hashem's presence in the world. If I take even a cup of water, and I make a bracha, shakol baralech vado, and all of a sudden I have a moment to appreciate this isn't just water. This is a gift I've been given. And I should appreciate what it is to have that gift. And this should heighten my relationship with Hashem. And challenge me to think, why am I so blessed? We take this for granted. I don't know if anybody here has ever been and seen real poverty. I personally think it's a mitzvah. A person has a responsibility to find an opportunity in your life to see what real poverty is. And I personally did that twice, and it changes you forever. Right? And if you do that, and you see what real poverty is, you appreciate drinking a cup of water. And when you make that bracha, you take a moment and you go back there and you realize, what is it? A change of, why did Hashem bless me and give me this water? I have to think about why I've been given that gift. So what does then v'nivrachu v'cha kol mishpachot ha'adam mean? It doesn't mean they're going to become wealthy through you. It doesn't mean that you're going to help them plant trees. It doesn't make sense to me that if our mission was to help the world, to help feed the world, to help, the world develop better agriculture, then Hashem would have made us a much bigger nation. I mean, how much can we really do? We're 0.01% of the population. That's not what v'nivrachu v'cha means. So what do you think v'nivrachu v'cha means?
Increase awareness of Hashem.
Pardon?
Increase awareness of Hashem.
Increase the awareness of Hashem. That somehow we become a vehicle for increasing the presence of Hashem in the world. This is not about Torah mitzvot. This is not about getting people to put tefillin on. This is about that the world should become a God-invested place. Right? If there's an objective ethic, an objective morality, then the world changes. By the way, if you think about it, since the two of the major religions in the West, Christianity and Islam, have flowed from Judaism. So to that end, half the world's population has an awareness of Hashem that they didn't have before. Does that make sense? Right? Tikkun olam v'nivrachu v'cha kol mishpachot ha'adam means that we, by the way, look at the beginning of Bereshit. Right? The way the world was first created, there were no Jewish people. There were no Jews in Parshat Bereshit. There was just Adam. It's not so clear that there were no other human beings by the way at the time of Adam. Gemara says otherwise, but that's another discussion. So everybody, at least in the Torah, flows from one couple. We're one universal humanity. It does not work. It doesn't work. It falls apart. So Hashem tries again. Who's Adam 2?
Noah.
Noah. The whole world comes from Noah. And again, it doesn't work. The world sinks into a morass of idolatry, unethical behavior, stone. So the third time Hashem says, we need something different. What becomes different when Avram arrives on the scene? Yeah? Would they guess? Anybody? Pardon?
He makes God a part of people's lives.
Well, but how does he do that?
Different ways, not massive or family.
Much simpler than that. That's just the particulars. He becomes a
Teacher.
okay. Well, what is a teacher? We could go that way. He becomes a role model. I learned this as a parent. I vividly remember this moment. You get to that stage in your life, Bezrat Hashem, at the right time, and you have children, and you know that every kid at some point he's going to tell his first fib. He's going to tell his first lie, right? Just part of human nature. And if you're a smart parent, you thought about this. Well, how do I deal when I catch my kid lying for the first time? Not that I want him to lie, not that I expect him to lie, but it happens. So I had this all set up with our second son, Yonatan, because, I've been through this before. So I figured out, this is what I'm going to do. When I catch him one day, he'll fib, he'll tell a lie, whatever, I'll have this whole fatherly discussion, and I'll sit down. So sure enough, I caught him, whatever it was, I don't remember what the issue was. He was like 5, maybe 6 years old, and he fibbed about something, and he was embarrassed. I said, look, how did you do this? So we're going to the living room, and we're sitting down, we're having this deep discussion. Right? I never ever told my kids that they're bad. Kids are bad, you can do better than that, you're good, right? And we're having this great discussion on the couch, and I'm talking to him about, I took him over to the mirror, and I showed him his face. I said, this is the most important thing, and if you lose your name, and Tov Shem, Tov Nishem, there's all great discussion. Sitting living on this great discussion, I'm feeling like such a great dad, and the phone rings. And my Yana's in the kitchen, and she was like, I don't know, 7, 8, and she's about to pick up the phone. So I yell out from the living room, just tell them I'm not here! And I go back to the discussion, all of a sudden I realize what I did. And Jonathan looks at me like, he gets it, right? And I suddenly realize, it doesn't matter, that whole speech just went out the window. Went out the window, right? It's like death to mine, right? And from that moment, I've made lots of mistakes in life. From that moment, Baruch Hashem, as far as I know, I've never ever told my kids, tell them I'm busy. I don't ever tell my kids to say that, I'm busy, it's okay. Because our children will learn far more from what we do than they ever will from what we say. And everywhere you look in the Torah, we could spend an hour discussing this topic. Our mission as a people is to become a model. Not, by the way, because we're better than anybody else. To be a chosen people does not mean that you're better. That's a mistake people make. Every people's chosen. How do I know they're chosen? Because they exist. Who chose them, by the way? Kosh Baruch Hu. Kosh Baruch Hu created. So if Hashem chose a nation, what's the obvious next question? Pardon? Yeah, what are they chosen for? Every nation has some mission. We have our mission. Right? It's interesting, by the way, a nation is not a nation without a land. That's a discussion we're going to have before Yom Ha'atzmaut. What does it mean to have, like, need to be in this land? It'd be so much easier if we started this yeshiva in Teaneck. Less flights, parents could visit, we'd have a nicer dorm, it'd be great, right? But why do we need to be in Israel? What's the value of this land? Right? For some reason, a nation cannot be a nation without a land, and a nation cannot achieve its purpose without being a land. Even the French, you put a Frenchman in the middle of Arizona, he's not really a Frenchman. He's a guy with a funny accent in Arizona. The French could never have achieved whatever they achieved, which is an interesting topic, without being friends, right? And we cannot achieve whatever it is that we want to achieve, that we're meant to achieve, unless we're here. So what is it we're meant to achieve? We're meant to be in all likely such an appropriate topic at the end of Hanukkah. I mean, what is Hanukkah? We fought a war. And at the end, or really the middle of this